Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2. I don't know what's happening with this screen, so we're going to skip this screen and go to the next one. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden this is blown up real big. Welcome back to another session of Afristream, where we are here focused on the rise of the African. We're giving you hot topics around the diaspora from a Pan African perspective, right? And again, we are always focused on the rise of the African because we are trying to be a family without borders, be a people without borders, connect without borders. So if you're watching us via Facebook, please like, comment, or share. This is how we get the word out to our communities and to our friends of the things that interest us or some of the things that you would like for them to think about. And if you're watching us via YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because we are always, always, always producing must-see live stream. So we ask you to join us at our various different programs. So that's World of the Kibaland on or Inspirational Sunday. We have The African Speaks during Tuesday evenings. Thursday evenings, we changed our time because I have classes and stuff, and so we're trying to balance it all and not deprive the community of Afristream on Thursday nights or any other program. It seems like the evenings are working for us better. And then you have on Saturdays, you have African History class at 1 and African Spirituality class at 2. Again, we welcome you to the Afristream setting. Now, tonight's topic is a topic that I've been putting on the back burner and I've always wanted to talk about. And again, we try to give it to you from a Pan-African perspective. Well, this particular topic this evening is going to have multiple layers and it will probably be introduced on multiple shows, meaning that it will be on Afristream as well as we'll follow up with some conversations about it via The African Speaks. And then we'll do multiple sessions probably here and Afristream because we don't know what is happening behind the computer screen. And that's important. And it's not just happening to something that's happening over in the motherland. It's something that's happening to us and we have no clue about it. And what I'm talking about, and if you saw the flyer or the setup, it's about digital colonialism. And you was like, digital colonialism? What is digital colonialism? Now, first understanding what colonialism is. And colonialism, if you remember from the history books, it's the policy or the practice of acquiring another country, taking control of it economically, taking control of all of its resources, occupying the land, putting settlers in it, and exploiting the people, its resources, and the land itself. And so we, out of all people, should understand colonialism and slavery go hand in hand because you're not even volunteering. You're being enslaved and indoctrinated with somebody else's viewpoint to the point where, and I don't know, was that Stockholm syndrome? When after you kidnap somebody, they see the world through their oppressive's eyes, their kidnapper's eyes. They sympathize with the kidnapper. Well, here in the States, yes, we have Stockholm syndrome when any time that you sit down and you're fighting for or arguing for a society that treats you like second-class citizens, you have Stockholm syndrome. Yes, you do. I have friends that, we always going back and forth about their Stockholm syndrome. And it is what it is. I'm always going to speak truth to my brothers and sisters. Why? Because if nobody plants the seed, you'll never have an opportunity for your understanding and your enlightenment to grow. And so in this space, colonialism is no different than slavery. And it leaves a mark. It leaves a mark, meaning that whatever you've been indoctrinated with after a certain period of time, after centuries and centuries of having it done, you'll never talk about self-determination. And you can talk about it, but it's very rare that you be about it. Now here, when we have in Americas, where we have more access to more resources and information as possible, you don't hear our community leaders talking about self-determination. You don't see them looking at technology as a means to bring black people together. And then if you do, they're just starting to do it while the world has a major jump on them. And now they're using technology to control. Now, how does that digital colonialism kick into place when it comes to dealing with the continent of Africa? Because I can tell you how it works here. And so they tried to, during Trumpism, they tried to control the internet. Why? Because they only wanted people to have certain access to it. They only want people to have certain access to certain websites. To have, and then you have to pay per level of access. That's not how that's supposed to work because it's a free open source system. Why, Jay, what do you mean by a free open source system? Meaning that anybody should be able to operate on the internet. The internet was not created to be sold. It was created to be free. And that's why there was a lot of times where people were offering you, you could Metro PCS. Metro PCS, every call is less than 1 cent. People were trying to figure out how did Metro PCS prices are so low. Easy, because the cost to make a call is less than a penny. So what you were really paying for was the pockets, for the pockets of the telephone company. Even today, you make a telephone call. That's why now, and then they didn't think texting and instant messaging, you would get that free. Now you got to pay for that, right? So you get unlimited calls. It means nothing. A call is less than a cent. So again, they're using technology as a means to exploit finances, pockets, and everything else. Then they control what they think when you're dealing with the issue of algorithm. So here, when you're clicking, they're creating an algorithm so things will pop up for you. Here's another way: digital colonialism, with dopamine. They give you it's a certain thing that triggers your mind. This is why you keep swiping. Why? Because you it's like playing a slot machine and you're looking and waiting for something to pop up. It's controlling how you think. Not only that, they said, well, look, we can give black people the free access to the internet. They're not going to do anything. That's what's happening here over the Americas. We're not using tech. And then the urgency to master technology has not hit our community yet. We might help one little child learn how to code. But India as a country, let's get this straight. India as a country knew that the digital age was coming. And so as a country, they solidified themselves as a pillar of technical support inside this digital arena. Why? Because they knew that digital colonialism was coming. And so and here in the Americas, anytime you need technical support, who are you talking to? Hello, how are you doing? You know who answers the phone. And I don't get mad. Why? Because as a country, they understood where the world was moving. And so here, when you're dealing with digital colonialism, we're also talking about where the world is moving. So now you're looking at the motherland Africa. And there's so many ways to attack this. There's so many ways to look at this. And digital colonialism is not just happening in the area of the motherland. It's happening here as well. They're controlling what we access, what we see, and then they're watching you, of course. Right? They watch you, of course. That's just simple. As long as the majority of us are TikToking silliness, chasing funds, money, and not building infrastructure. The country of India built infrastructure. We have a youth program, World of Akibalat. And there is a document that I've written up according for World of Akibalat, where we address the issues of the technological divide, where we can say, you give me a child, and you give me the resources to build, and give me a child at 5. And you give me children at the age of 5 years old and have them come into this after school program where they're learning how to code. By the time they're 10 and 15, the inner city community is now the country of India. Ain't that something? Woo! Yes. Where we educate our kids in the creating infrastructure. We're not building no competition to go against Amazon. We're not building any competition to go against Google. We're not building any competition to go against Microsoft. We're not building any competition to go against Facebook. We just want to use them. We have already been digitally colonialized. Ain't that something? Well, let's see how they're approaching the continent of Africa.
The African continent is the latest target of big tech domination. While billions are being invested by tech giants like Google and Facebook, their projects do not cater to the needs of the local population.
That's, again, colonialization. There is a need of a people, and technology is supposed to serve the needs of a people. But she just said they come, but they're not dealing with the needs of a people. Digital colonialization.
Actually, there's a bit of penetration of mobile phones generally in Kenya, Africa. But now the problem is connectivity, and connectivity I mean internet. So you might have a really good smartphone, but you don't have connectivity, meaning that you can't really access the content that is online.
Douglas Mwangi is a local innovator who's trying to bring homegrown technology alternatives to Mathari, one of the biggest slums in Nairobi.
Digital divide in Kenya, it's such a black and white. There are those who can access tech, there are those who can't even access that tech.
Those who can access technology and those who completely cannot. That's already a huge, it's either have or have nots. There's no in between. There is no, I have an iPad, no. Either you got it or you don't. It's no, I have a Chromebook that is not really a computer, but it's a Chromebook and it helps me access some of the internet. Either you got it or you don't. There's no PlayStation gaming where you can access other gamers around the world. Either you have it or you don't. And when you're looking at the communities and the needs of the community, they're not changing the community. That's not what they care about. Let's continue.
Internet use across Africa skyrocketed from 2.1% in 2005 to 28.2% by 2019, the highest growth rate globally. This prompted Facebook to introduce To Africa, a 37,000 kilometer long undersea cable being built around the African continent. It's supposed to interconnect 23 countries across Africa, West Asia, and Europe, and promises to provide African countries with better internet.
Now, the first thing you hear, Facebook is trying it. Not only Facebook, you'll get to, there's another company trying to do it. Why? Because we're trying to access those clients, those customers. There's nothing that we're adding to the lifestyle of it. But you see that if this is the fastest growing individuals utilizing the internet, then there's an opportunity. In every segment of life, when we talk via Afristream, we talk about how Africa now, because they're trying to figure out where they are going to get the next $1 billion, where they're going to get the most money. So when you're looking at how growth of the bottom line, you think about what is the most undeveloped region of the world. And so we've talked about Africa, Pan-Africanism, and we were in Afristream. We've talked about all the areas when it comes to the westernized world taking advantage of the continent. Even between China, well, you'll get there. China, you'll get to the point where we talk about agriculture. You talk about building trains and infrastructure, shipping, airlines. We've talked about all of this previously. We've talked about this via the African Speaks. That's why it's always important to tune on in. But this is something. Building a line around them. Now, they didn't say we're going to connect you to America. You didn't hear that. Why? Because that bridges the gap between us and them. There's not going to be a bridge where white folks create a connection between us and home. Get that right. Digital colonialism. They're after whatever advantages they can have. Let's continue.
Google is also currently in talks to build a cable system along Africa's western coast. We asked academic Kutoma Wakunuma what these investments mean for Africa's development and independence.
So there needs to be awareness, because at the moment, I think what is happening is that citizens are happy to use these digital platforms, and I'm sure they'll be happy to use whatever will come out as a result of these, cables, because they are marketed in such a way that they bring a positive aspect to people's lives.
Big
What she said was people are willing to use these digital platforms owned by Google and Facebook, right? So Google and Facebook will be the source of internet access for the whole continent of Africa. Do you understand what they can charge for that? What? It's not the fact that they're giving a country its own infrastructure. They're saying you can have access only if you come through us. Let's keep looking.
tech in Africa is known for its big promises. Balloons were sworn to bring the internet to rural and remote communities worldwide. Loon, an affiliate of Google, failed to succeed in Africa. And before that, Facebook fell short of supplying internet through its drone experiments.
I would say that technologies are value laden. And what I mean by this is that whoever is behind the development of these technologies will have their values inculcated in these particular technologies.
Google and all the big tech that were developed in Silicon Savannah, they were meant for the first world, yeah? But now in Kenya, dynamics, the landscape is really different.
And the fact that these digital platforms are Western platforms.
We're going to stop. In the sense that the digital colonialism is about, you'll get there, right? These digital platforms were created for westernized civilization. First world countries, not for Africa. So it doesn't necessarily work according to the need of the continent, the countries within that continent, the people within the continent, within the country, within that continent. It wasn't written, it wasn't created for them. And that's why the first two attempts failed. So if they don't sit down and read, they have to come back and reevaluate how they're approaching digital colonialism with Africa, because you can't do it with what you have. You're going to have to alter what you have in order to just take advantage of them. Let's continue.
In a sense, is what digital colonialism is about.
There seems to be this belief that there's a great deal of opportunity in Africa, but many opportunities have to be steered by somebody from outside Africa. There's an element of racial bias around the people who actually get money and those who don't, even if the ideas are similar. There's a story that goes back a few years that one of our government agencies needed a mobile app. The guys in the UK, I think, charged a premium of something like $400,000 for the app. The guys in Kenya were paid something like $20,000.
When you look at the power of these tech companies, it's huge, quite influential financially, but even politically. There's the curse of Africa at independence, where you look across the continent, because it's the same colonial logic of invading our lands, exploiting raw materials, transporting them, adding value, and later looking for markets.
There is nothing, and they already see the intellectual body. Now they say, oh yes, we want to connect to the internet. But the intellectual body and the technological minds realize that this is nothing more than another way to control us the way you've done. Wait, let him say it for yourself.
For it, it's the same logic.
Africa should be the richest continent in the world.
In the world. Well, colonialism, digital colonialism is no different than what they did when they came to invade Africa the first time, centuries ago, wanting just to control and use it as a source of getting richer. Now, when he said a lot of tech companies are looking at Africa as a means to invest in, that doesn't mean that they're giving Africa control of the technologies that they're building. I used to be a part of a company that sent engineers over, an energy company that sent engineers over to Africa. to spy out, spot, talk, and interact with where can we build our energy systems. Where can we do what we do so that we can bring them electricity where they don't have electricity? But you can only have electricity through us. It's not like they're selling their technology and giving it to a government and allowing the government to run itself. No. Hey, let us build our technology there for you and you can use it through us. And now we can charge you whatever we want for the use of our technology. Ain't that something? And it's not the fact that you're building infrastructure. No. You're just using what we gave and you can only use it according to what we allow you to have access to. So not only do you think about it, not only do you control the flow of the internet where they can access, but you can also control what they access. Let's continue. And I don't know if y'all remember the dial-up days where you got dial-up and everything it would pop up. You had to get the pop-up blockers because they were going to turn you into a consumer. By indoctrinating you with ad after ad after ad after ad, they're going to turn you into a consumer. And you're going to click on something. You're going to move on something. You're going to purchase something. That's how Elon Musk was able to see, wait a minute. People don't want to buy on the stores no more. They want to just buy on the internet. Let me make this easy. Consumer. He saw it, jumped on it, moved on it. Now you don't have to leave your seat. All you got to do is click and stay home. Ain't that something? COVID did what? Made you an internet consumer. Because more people now are having their groceries brought to their homes. They're not going outside. They have you locked in one way. Now they just got to develop something else. He's right. Africa should be the richest as long as you get the hands of colonial countries out of their pockets. Let's continue.
Africa has one advantage, big advantage. Our population is young.
It almost feels like there's a race to connect Africa. And I think to me, it's as if Africa is like the last frontier.
Africa is the last frontier. It is literally the last frontier. It's bigger than anything that they've ever seen when it comes to comparing it to individual countries. Its resources can feed everybody. So instead of having pieces, because now you have African governments who are taking control. Well, wait, don't take full control. Let us come here and give you a hand. Let's come help. Let's help you with your own self-development. And if we can get in at the foundation as you grow, and they said their population is young, that means you have a longer season for exploitation. Now, in my mindset, when I was dealing with my business, we sat down and said, shoot, if you can get you get somebody paying, here's a great story. Design a clothing stop in New York, Brooklyn, Broadway, East New York, right? You go down there to Broadway, East New York, there was a clothing store. He said, I had to find a way to get individuals to spend money. And so he put high fashion in baby clothes. At that time, I was probably like 19. High fashion and baby clothes really didn't make any sense to anybody. But he tapped into the greed and the illusion of living well inside young black mothers. And he said, some sisters come to my store with their entire paychecks, and this is how they cash their paychecks. By putting these Timberlands on these babies. By putting these Nikes on these babies. By putting this Louis on these babies. And showing everybody how hot the fashion is on their babies. He said, now, the minute that I got you spending money, he said, dude, I ain't never worried about my store shutting down. Because these women will come here and spend this money as much as possible and tell me he wasn't telling the truth. Because I'm way past 19. And all you see is how much money they spend on a baby who's going to grow out of something in a matter of a month. Really. And so I don't know whether or not they pass it around or, how you do it, the hand-me-down thing. But it's exactly what they do. and that is indoctrination of how you think. I have to consume, I have to buy, I have to purchase. Consume, I have to buy, I have to purchase. What else do we do other than building, without self-determination? All we are nation consumers, and that going after the continent of Africa to make them, because Black America, we straight up consumers. Now they're trying to make the continent the same. Let's continue.
So I think internet.
Chinese firms like Huawei, ZTE, and China Telecom are the chief architects of the new ICT infrastructure across Africa. China went as far as to establish Tecno, a Chinese mobile phone manufacturer with the sole purpose of serving African markets. As part of its Belt and Road initiative, China has also announced a new digital Silk Road in 2015, building network cables, data centers, research and development facilities, and digital partnerships with African universities. At least 46 of all 54 countries in Africa are currently engaged with China's digital sectors.
China.
Now, let's talk about China. They're smarter than the average bear, because China is like she said, China's tech infrastructure. China is saying, I'll give you billions of dollars to build, just so that you could build this, and we'll help you with our understanding of technology. But if I give you 3 billion, now you in deep, deep, deep debt. There is an airport that China helped a country pay for, and China had in their contract of shrewd business partners. We need to see and validate every dime that you spend from this airport, and if we don't agree with how you're spending the money for the airport, we can deny it, or we can take our airport back, meaning that they will own the land that the airport is on. China not playing. It's getting grimy. They are getting grimy, and I'm praying, and this is why African spirituality is key. We have individuals around. I know that the country. We're having a German ceremony this summer, where we are asking our ancestors to sit down, and we're praying for our brothers across the pond, not to give in to this digital colonialism, to realize what's going on, and give black folk an opportunity to literally stand up on their own 2 feet, to be able to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. We talked about that last week when we dealt with, I can switch, just having the basic needs. Because in this we talked with how Russia has 41 countries in Africa paused because they receive food from wheat and everything else from Russia and the Ukraine. They both send food over there, and it's their export, so they're not getting any imports. So people are not eating, not the way they used to, and so countries are in jeopardy. What? But you, Africa, yeah, they won't let you build infrastructure. Ain't that something? They colonialism, and they're not in the country, but they're still running the country. And when you look for aid,
Stand up to US
you don't get it.
because they have a significant amount of people, 1.3 billion. So when they developed their own Tencent, they developed their own applications, there was market, there was scale.
China is sort of winning the race because its products are cheaper, and it's invested a lot in terms of the technology infrastructure.
Again, so they're racing. Countries are racing to control the continent. Racing. Why? Because it's so undeveloped. If we get the foundation of these countries, when these markets grow up, because the population is so young, and we can control how they access and utilize technologies. Not the fact that allowing the governments to develop infrastructure within themselves that they completely control by themselves. No. Partnershiping with outside countries. Understand what's happening. Digital colonialism is real. It's the same way here when you want to argue in the Americas about what is that? The educate. See, my mind just went blank because I'm sitting there. Infused. Where you're dealing with the critical race theory, and you want to put it in schools. Colonialism. They control the schools, but you want to argue with a country that, look, this is a public institution. We can do what we want, and we're not putting that in. And they can say no, but it benefits our children. And so you know you colonialize when you have to ask and beg and plead for something that benefits the quality of living. We're still colonialized here. We're still enslaved here. I'm sitting there saying, why are we making this argument? It's stupid. I will say that because I got people living in my community fighting for critical race theory. It's stupid. What you should be arguing with is building your own educational system from state to state, city to city, as big as possible. Let me see you really dream. Let me see a prayer go up to the creator where God has to sit back in awe and say, what? Are they really waking up? There should never be anybody going into this country or this continent offering them something that they could build for themselves, especially when we here have a economic and a base here where we should be not only fighting for ourselves here, but also acknowledging what's happening to our brothers and sisters across the seas. Let's continue.
And I like using as a metaphor the headquarters of the African Union. We didn't build it. Africa didn't build it. China built it. About a decade ago, 5-7 years ago, there was a discovery that that building was bugged. So what did you sign off by this slavish, underdogish acceptance of freebies?
Woo! So China builds something, bugs it, and listens to the leadership of the continent have conversations that should only be privy to the leaders of that continent, that country, or the countries of the gathering of leaderships of all those around. China's sitting there saying, oh, okay, wait, we can create something. Let's create something in this, off of this. And like, oh, we are on the same wavelength. We was thinking about y'all. Y'all was thinking about the ABCDFG. We didn't know, but here you go. China ain't playing no games, man. Neither is the U.S. or anybody else. They still trying to control the continent. Why? Because if the continent breaks loose and controls itself, then what? Africa becomes truly a concept. Not just one Wakanda, but multiple Wakandas across from coast to coast. You know what I mean? Let's continue.
Technology, it's all about solving an actual problem. It could be a really complex tech, but if it does not meet the needs of those, for the users, it can't help. It can't help anyone.
Douglas founded Oasis Madari in 2013, a community-based organization offering teaching services and free technology access to the people from the poorest slums in Nairobi.
Now, before we go into this, we're gonna let this go, and then I'm gonna drop another. After the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Kenya, the Minister of Education introduced online education, which is a really good model, but there are some gaps. You need internet to access the content, and majority of families in Dar es Salaam, they don't have access to a smartphone. And for those who do, they can't access internet. So we developed a system that does not require internet, and it cut across. As long as you have a phone that can send and receive text, you're good to go. And it's totally free.
Now, he said we create a system that doesn't need internet, and all you have to do is be able to receive a text. That's technology that is out of Africa, right? Because if your cell phone internet is off, you don't send text. That's not what you have. But they said if you have that. Now, another thing I want to add here is that you see what's happening here. They also have we did the program about Andela, where they said that you're using They're trying to create over 200,000 engineers, software engineers via Andela inside Kenya, Nigeria, Angola, and Andela is named after Mandela, right? But now one of the things that you understand that Zuckerberg has his hands all in that. White folks have their hand all in that. Why? Because this is what will make money later. So of course, if you wow, here we go. If you are a headhunter, which Andela is becoming, meaning that you are a recruiter for job employment, and I'm using you and I'm recruiting you, and you come to what's here, tech systems. We just say tech systems. And so you contact tech systems because you're looking for computer individuals. We have individuals that will fit this job source. We have 8 individuals that fit this. Here are 8 resumes. Now, I spoke to a friend of mine tonight who was in the process of building his own transport company. I said, now he works for a transport company. I said, whatever your transport company is paying you, times that by 3. That's exactly what they actually make. When I was working for a tech company, I said, I look, you know what I mean? And back in the beginning when I became IT, I was only making about $15 an hour. Right? So I'm making $15 an hour. But the company that I was working for, and this was 20 years ago, was making $45 an hour off of me. What? And I got that information by speaking to the person who was, the secretary. Became friends because I wanted a raise, and so she was like, well, don't ask them for a raise. Speak to them and ask them to change the percent rate that they receive from you, because there's a large gap between what you make. Now, that's money. So if I can charge you less and get more and say, okay, you look working in that environment. You got a job as a programmer. You're not making American money. You're making the money according to the environment and the city in which you live, which is better than what you didn't have before. But if digital colonialism didn't exist, you could actually get what is comparable to that position, period. Let's continue.
Which of these
does not show
the
use of light?
So, answering for dry cells, discouraging pests. Unaanza ni
Na mi tangu ianze nilikuwa naifanya, na nikifanya pamoja tuseme math, nikifanya nimalize inaleta percentage, na ikishaleta naona percentage je nimepata, inanipatia motivations yenye nikifanya ingine naona ni kama na improve.
What scares me about the big technological giants coming into Kenya and by extension in Africa is data privacy. So we're in a position where we are logging in, we are giving rights, but we do not actually know what you're giving out. So mine is actually data privacy. So our data can be used in a way that that will definitely infringe our rights.
Many of us don't understand just how much data we're pushing out there. Every time we put a picture on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, every time we share our geographical information.
Right now, we're seeing unprecedented waves of citizen mobilization using technology as platforms for citizen mobilization, but we're also seeing a significant increase in surveillance and forms of social control that are being deployed by the governments in collaboration with the corporations. We had a heightened use of the internet, especially for polarization and for ethnicized discourse. We saw a lot of advertising paid for that is designed to play on ethnic differences. And this is a country where people have literally gone at each other, machetes and everything. And that's going to have serious consequences. It is having serious consequences right now.
So imagine if
Internet showing ads of social distances causing riots. What? Now we already know that Facebook has been here having issues with giving certain out information, selling off data. This is not a game. And now you have companies, not only the companies are doing it, but the governments are doing it. And so you you're controlling people's minds and actions according to what you're allowing them to see and have and do. Black people need to wake up. I keep and I'll say this here, and if you see it anywhere else, they got it from me. Uh, but World of Akibland seeks to create something called the Black Cyber Generation, where we are building our own everything technologically. Everything. We're making a move. You know, there's been a lot of changes going on, and there's a lot happening behind the scenes that we can't wait to tell and show you and ask you to be a part of. But we have to be conscious and aware of what is happening to us while we move forward. We just can't be leaders in positions that are not paying attention to what's going on around us and not realizing that the world will close in on us if we do not make a technological move, a technological gain, technological growth, because that's what is going to be governing our environment. You see, half the kids now, well, yeah, still here. A lot of them are still being educated from home. So they are setting it up where we don't need you moving around. We need you staying home. And we'll send you your paycheck. And you can still buy your stuff online. You don't have to interact or build infrastructure. Why? Because we made life so easy. Why would you go against the grain? Think about it. Let's continue.
People then decided to depend on Facebook in Africa, and then it decided to do what it did in Australia just because it didn't sort of maybe like something.
Facebook has a long history of privacy scandals, including passing information onto US-based intelligence services and advertising agencies. The free internet Facebook claims to offer Africa restricts access to information by design. In 2015, it introduced an app called Free Basics, an alternative to the internet, which only really allows you to read content chosen by Facebook, collects your data, and turns you into a passive consumer.
At the same time, I think one needs to recognize the fact that somehow free is not always free, so to speak, you know, because, you know, Facebook, it's to the advantage of Facebook, isn't it? At the end of the day,
we have these companies entering these markets and expanding into these markets without any kind of concomitant investment in accountability, in transparency, in fairness.
Technology is there to ensure that it's making our life easier. That is the essence of tech. So talking about the big tech giants in the Western world, yeah, they have really sophisticated, amazing product, but it's not solving our problems. Yeah, it's irrelevant to us. So now it's up to us to step up, to come up with a product that will meet our needs. And
products that will meet our needs. I don't know. We had a quadcentennial. And during the quadcentennial in my community, we talked about building what was said was how do he put it? Resource centers, where it's not everything is based and built off of technology. Hasn't seen or heard any of it since the quadcentennial, but that was been the conversation. These resource centers, and in it, a lady stood up and raised her hand, and she was like, "Well, what about me?" Because they talked about the age. What was the best answer to give that wasn't given is technology doesn't have an age. Technology meets the needs of the people that it is serving. So as a particular age, even now in my own particular community, they said, oh, we need the young. No, you don't need the young. You need older people who understand how to communicate or speak the tongue of the young so that we can tell them about this struggle towards self-determination. We can tell them about the struggle of Pan-Africanism. We can explain and break down the issues of digital colonialism. When you saw everybody flipping through their phones, the first thing I thought about was the chemical dopamine. You're not going to get rid of that. It's going to be hard for you to put that down. It's going to be hard for you to get them to stop feeding the dopamine in their own brain. So what do? We have to be able to find a way so that whatever they on, when utilizing technology, they approach the technology with a sense of deeper spiritual awareness and social justice. You understand that what you're perpetuating when no, I don't have a TikTok account, didn't have a Snapchat account. Why? Because I don't believe I can find what I need. That's when the African became about, because I saw the colonialization in America. I saw what we began to produce versus what we should have been producing as a people, and said I have to become what I'm missing. That information that empowers me, that connects us, that builds us as a people. It's not reducing. It's not even when you're looking at it, and I'll share this with those who are seeking to make money on the internet. And that might be something I'll do also on another show. I'll create that show. When you're trying to make money on the internet, you're trying to resolve a need. That need is also equates to the word a niche, meaning that there's a group of people that believe and need what you are solving. Africa needs to access the internet, but they need the internet to be able to solve the other issues of the community, not come in and be the Facebook of the Americas. No. Governments need to sit down and say, you know what, we need to send a group of people to be educated. To be educated in computer science, or have some tech. Pay the tech genius. Pay the tech to come back and teach classes for 2 years. Because you don't need to go to college for 4 years. You could take a 2-year certification. And then hire them have the government teach the classes, hire them within the government to work for the government and that country. To develop infrastructure. It may take you a little longer than borrowing money from China. But at least you own and operate what the technology produces. Let's continue.
That is when we'll be able to reduce the price and make it available to anyone.
Anybody.
I think that globally we're in a time of tremendous change. And I keep thinking about one of my favorite philosophers, Antonio Gramsci. He says that the old world is dying and the new one is not yet born. And so now is the time for demons.
Ooh, let's stop. The old world is dying and the new world is not yet born. So now is the time for demons. I don't know how many times I've seen individuals demand financial currency based on a service that they should be willing to give to the community for it to grow. Then they want it top dollar. Some of them got it. Some of them is like, look, I'm out here trying to get this bread. The old world is dying, meaning that they're not up for change. They're not up for development and growth. Technology has no age. The issue is, what does your spirit call you to do in this new space? But the old world is dying. I can't wait till things go. It ain't going back. The new world is not born yet, so it's volatile. We're living in a time of demons. Ain't that something? So when I had to learn this week where I had to listen with a sympathetic ear and speak with a sympathetic tongue. But I know that there are a lot of demonic individuals out there trying to do good but doing bad. Wanting to help but causing harm. And so sometimes there's no gray area. Either we're going to fight to become a people, or we're going to create ourselves a more colonistic situation and circumstance, not only over here but across the globe. We got to make a decision that we need to see the African rise internationally. Let's get to the end of this.
Many big tech initiatives are more about flashy announcements and marketing than reaching and serving the poorest people. For local innovators, it is important to turn around this exploitation and colonial mentality still rampant in the 21st century. Wangi's project shows us that the people can do great things autonomously.
It should come from us. We should be at our forefront leading, revolution in technology.
Now, tell me, I am not being bad to say a country like Botswana, 1 million. What would it tell Americans that we don't want Google here, because they would say to hell with you. But if AU stood up and said we don't want this 1.2 billion people, they would listen to you. They would listen to you. So we need to create a mega single market to have leverage in terms of discussions. Otherwise, now we are just slaves like we were when we were colonized first.
Wow. That is in that. I don't think there's maybe a few seconds left. Yeah, 4 seconds left, so there's nothing else there. But if we don't control everything, and this is what he's saying, if we're not, he said one voice, 1.2 billion people on the motherland. If we can be 1.2 billion people telling them what we don't want, they'll listen. But one country at a time can't defend off the movement of a Western entity seeking to digitally colonize a country or the whole continent. As a body of people, yeah, we can. Again, Pan-Africanism stops everything. A unified people stops everything. Anybody talking other than that can be looked upon as an enemy of the people, because we can get together and iron out our differences. That's it. Period. If they can do it amongst themselves, why can't we? For the sake of development and growth. Now we're going to look at digital colonialism in a lot of different forms and shapes and sizes. Hopefully that we'll get to a point where it's clear on how to utilize and use technology. There's nothing wrong using it as a source of entertainment. It's something wrong if the 90% of time that you use it is only for the source of the entertainment. If that's the case, you have already been digitally colonialized. We have to make sure that the continent, we do whatever we can. We understand what's happening, because what's happened to us is now happening to them. We're here, so we didn't see it as much. When COVID hit and we didn't have computers in our homes, we didn't have high-speed internet. The internet was meant to be free. The internet was meant to be free. It was not meant to cause costs. I don't even tell you what I pay for my high. I got a gamer speed because I want to be able to stream without a problem. So I pay for the high-end speed. I had to slow down and it would freeze, and I would get cloudy and get clear, and get cloudy and get clear. They know where the next money is and how they're making their millions. I would love to see black people build their own towers here in this country, build their own browsers. I would love to see that experience. I would love World of Akibaland seeks to be that answer. Y'all be on the lookout to see the moves that we begin to make and the connections we be able to take. We're working on and seeing where we end up, because we're out here to defeat this. But with that, always be focused on the rise of the African, not just in you, but around you. And with that, we can say good night.